good evening once again, and we are back on a holiday. Just because of the cat review, we have already published yesterday the cat review. Those who have not gone through the entire review in Campus Sutra can find it out on the homepage. This has undoubtedly been one of the probably the toughest cat in recent times. That's the kind of reviews which we have received from many test takers, and not just many test takers. In fact, Dhruva sir has been one of the test takers. So it's from directly from the horse's mouth we are going to listen today. It's not any third party review which we are going to give you based on multiple collections from different people. It's like experience, learning from the experience of what firsthand. Now, the other feedbacks has also come from three different centers, from three different slots which Cat had. So based on that, Dhruva sir will take through the pointers which has been already published in campussutra.com. uh, Couple of things which, like, the questions were in one paper where we felt unnecessarily made complicated, which was time consuming for people to understand. But all that and more from Dhrubajyoti sir about the question papers, about the effect on the cutoffs, maybe which would be declared by IIM Bangalore and other IIMs as well. And we have also received some queries on the answer keys. Now, one thing which we would like to say is, like, it's not permitted that somebody should take the question paper or leak the question paper outside, and it is not, of course, possible for one to remember the entire set of questions. So we would refrain from coming out with a question set of answers before the official announcement, which we expect to be done in another, maybe in a week's time. So that's it from my end. Dhruva sir, over to you.
Thank you. Good that we are doing this session actually today and not yesterday, because my guess is if you would have done this session yesterday, it would have become a long, long rant session regarding, why does the paper need to be like that, and uh, how illogical the paper is, and that etc. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one very simple thing about cat, and the good thing about cat is that, when your paper goes bad, then it is definitely a bad news. But if everybody's paper goes bad, then it's a good news. I mean that's the whole basic understanding about a paper like cat, that therefore, uh, if your paper has gone equally bad as everybody else, then you are in a good place. That's the best part about a paper like cat. uh, so yes, the paper was tough, one of the toughest cat papers in my guess at least 5 years history. So people, if you are disheartened by yesterday's paper, let's not get unduly worried about it. I will discuss about good score and etc, and what you need to be worried and how do you look forward. But yeah, I mean, to start with, the paper was difficult for everybody. I have not met one single person, including toppers from my students who were consistently good in uh, their mock cats and etc. So don't get unduly worried about it. I think the paper was bad for everybody, and that makes the paper good for everybody. Okay, so let me first share the analysis of the paper. Okay. So first thing first, let's first of all understand what was common in all these slots. Okay. I think the paper structure was absolutely common in all these slots. There is absolutely no difference in the paper structure in all the three slots. In fact, no surprises there. I think it was exactly like last year. Okay, in terms of number of questions from each different type of sections, it was exactly like last year. Three sections, Same sequence. It started with VRC, then it got into DILR, then it got into Quant. Each of the sections being 40 minutes each. The difficulty level across the sections, with whatever feedback I have got in all the 3 4 slots, are absolutely same. So it looks like that cat has sincerely and honestly tried to give uniform experience to all the cat takers across the 3 slots. So that is the uh, good thing about the paper. One interesting thing that happened in cat this year, it seems that and in fact a large number of students have reported from slot 1 and slot 2 that there was one question in the VRC section, a parajumble question, where once you reach to that question, there was a pop-up flash type of a thing which said that this is a compulsory question. You are supposed to compulsorily attempt this question. I did not get it in slot 3. None of my questions in slot 3 said it is a compulsory question. Now, there was no such instruction given in the initial instruction that was there in the at the start of the paper. So I don't really know whether this was a bug or whether this is actually planned. And if it is planned, what happens if somebody skips it? Because there was an option to skip it. If it was a compulsory question, then there should not have been an option to skip it. But then it was always a option to skip it. I mean, it was theta at the end of the day, so there cannot be officially negative marking as well, because none of the type in the answer questions had negative marking. That was very clearly mentioned in the instructions. So not very clear whether it was a bug that happened by mistake, or whether it was planned or something like that. But yeah, slot 1 and slot 2, there seems to be one question of parajumble uh, which was reportedly compulsory. Slot 3 did not have such a question. So that's the basic difference. I think that's the whole idea. Okay, now across the slots, as I said, uh, the structure of the paper was absolutely same. For example, if you talk about VRC, exactly same as last year. 4 RC passages with 4 questions each, and then followed by 8 verbal ability questions, which included parajumbles, uh, paragraph summary, whichever is the paragraph summary, uh, uh, out of sync, out of character questions. That is basically they were given 4 sentences, and they said that 5 sentences, which said that out of these 5 sentences, 4 are coherent in forming a paragraph, one is out of sync. So you'll have to recognize which one of the sentences actually was not forming a part of the paragraph. Okay, there was a 2 question on sentence placement, which is basically that they gave a sentence and they said whether the sentence should be at the beginning of the paragraph, in the middle of the paragraph, at the end of the paragraph, and so on. They gave 4 blanks, and they said whether it should be in slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, or slot 4. That was the idea. uh, Out of the character question is something which was not there last year, but yeah, this year it has come. So that's how it is. uh, my reading in slot 3, and with whatever I have gathered from slot 1 and slot 2, is out of the 4 RCs, uh, one was easy, uh, 2 were medium, and one set was there which had very tough vocab and very abstract subject. Okay, so very very abstract. For example, in slot 3 there was something about romanticism aesthetics. Okay, how do you define aesthetics in romanticism? That was the topic which I found very very abstract and difficult, though I answered it. But yeah, I mean, there was at least one set which was slightly tough vocab and etc. One very important thing about RC was that not even one single question was a direct question. Almost everything was inferential, which fundamentally meant it was something like which one of the following, if true, uh, would have negated the conclusion that the author has made, or which one of the following is not an inference from the passage, or which one of the following is not something that was mentioned as a reason for the destruction of nature or something like that. So none of the questions were direct. Almost every of the question was very very inferential. So that, which is a very common thing. So nothing surprising here, because if you look at last few years, RC had been like that. A very less number of time in last 5 6 years, RC has given very direct questions. So my guess is that out of the four passages, at least three were doable, and out of those 12 questions, at least 10 were doable. So even if you leave out, let's say, one or two question from any of the passages, then at least out of those 12 questions from RC, at least 10 were very much doable, and you should have got good accuracy rate as well, because once you have the patience to go through them, then they were definitely doable. Similarly, from the eight VA questions, at least 4 5 of them were very easy and straightforward, provided you keep your patience and do it calmly, and so on and so forth. One thing that I felt in the VRC section was time was not a constraint. Okay, which I felt in the other two sections very highly, and I'll come to that when I discuss about DILR and Quant. But this section, 40 minutes was a reasonable time to see all the 24 questions, spend good amount of time in each one of them, uh, read and decide which question to do, which question not to do, which one I should dump, which RC I can dump, which VA question I can dump, which question I should do, and how much time should I spend on it. So therefore, 40 minutes was good enough time in a calm and composed manner to approach this section. And therefore, my guess is that this section will have definitely huge number of questions to be done. I personally could attempt almost 20 questions, but my guess is anybody be who is able to do around 10 questions of RC and 4 to 5 questions of VA with fair amount of accuracy rate of 80%. That means I'm talking about, let's say, 15 attempted and approximately 12 right. That should be a very good attempt. Okay, and my definition of very good attempt is 95 percentile. Okay, so the reason of 95 percentile is I'm talking about sectional cutoffs. Obviously overall it will go to 99 99.5 for a good IM call. But yeah, if you are targeting, let's say, 95 percentile section wise, then my guess is 15 attempted, 12 right, 3 wrong, or 13 right, 2 wrong, something like that, should be giving you easily 95 percentile across all these sections. Okay, now take it with a pinch of salt, because the reason I say that is because interestingly enough, uh, because the paper structure was same across the sections, uh, many people who were there in the slot 1, after the VRC section, they might have got into a little bit of shock when they reach to DILR or Quant. But as they kept on coming out, and as they kept on discussing in the WhatsApp groups and etc., people who reached to slot 2 or slot 3 already were familiar with the feedback from slot 1 and slot 2, and that did not change. So therefore, let's say for somebody like slot 3, I actually knew that this has come in slot 1 and slot 2, or the quantua stuff, or the LRDI was lengthy or something like that. So while it was still difficult for me, but it was not a shocker. I was mentally ready that something like this is going to happen. Okay, so when we discuss the cutoffs, I will discuss about that. But yeah, I mean, effectively speaking, I would say, and when we reach to the last slide I will discuss, I will say that chances are for somebody in the last slot, uh, maybe I will say two questions more. So maybe not 15 questions attempted, maybe 17 questions attempted with 14 right would be a safe attempt, considering the fact that there will be normalization and they will take into account this aspect while preparing the general percentile. Okay, so just take it with that amount of caution as I am suggesting. Okay, LRDI again, structure wise, there was no surprise. There were 20 questions. Uh, no surprise again. Like last year, there was absolutely no data interpretation. I can safely call it a logical reasoning section for the last 2 years at least, because it seems that CAT consciously has given up on diagram based pie chart bar graph type of questions for the last 2 years. That no way means that it will not come next year. So anybody from CAT 24 preparations, if you are attending, you should not at all take it as that I don't need to do practice preparations and etc. But yeah, I mean, truth of life is that uh, there were four sets of five questions each, and all of them were maths based LR. Okay, all of them. I mean, it did not require any calculation per se. Okay, now each one of these questions, and in fact the strangest part, or rather the unprecedented part about these LR questions was that generally whenever CAT uses terms like median, averages, weightages, etc., standard deviation, median, maxima, minima, they generally would, uh, let's say, the word median, I'll still keep out averages and weightages maybe, but when they say median, they generally would give the definition, because not everybody from, let's say, somebody from arts background, or even sometimes let's say commerce background without maths type of a student, they would have forgotten what is median. I'm sure it was taught in class 10th or maybe even 11th and 12th. But for somebody who has not taken maths in 12 or has not taken maths during graduation, the concept of median is not really something which is taught in aptitude test preparation. Okay, or at least not taught as a concept which is widely popular. So generally, what I have seen over last 20 years or so is that they generally would have explained the term what is median. Here they did not. This year they gave a question on median, and they really did not explain what is a median. Okay, so for example, in slot 3, uh, there was a question which had five people and their marks, and they say the minimum score scored is 110, the maximum is 130, and the median is 120. There are five people. Now if somebody does not understand what is median, they will not understand that to satisfy 120 as a median, I need to have one student with 110, three students with 120, and the last student has 130. I could not have any other combination. And therefore, if you don't understand the term median, then the whole set would have been gone. Anybody who had sound knowledge of the definition of median would have been able to solve it. Similarly, the language was complicated. For example, they said that there are differential weightages adding up to one. So many people who would not have understood that term, they would have got confused. Okay, uh, so the language and the data was very complex. That is what I found out in this year's LR questions, which was not so complex last year. Okay, now what happened in this was that because it was a shocker for many people, uh, and it was slightly demotivating, because you are already taking 12 to 15 minutes in one set. So what happened was that 40 minutes was definitely not enough time to see all the questions. That was what I felt personally, because what happened was that I could do two sets properly, And by the time I actually finished two sets properly and well done, it was almost 30 minutes already. And when I started reading the third set, it was very clear that it could not be solved completely in next 10 minutes. So I did not even know whether I should, you know, do it more, proceed, or should I relax or something like that, because I could very clearly see that without completing the question, without completing the full question, I will not be able to solve even one question next. And definitely 8 9 minutes of time was not good enough to solve any of the sets that was available. So yeah, I mean, for a very good attempt, my guess is that if you are able to do two sets completely, that should be great. If you are able to do two sets partially, that should give you 95 percentile easily. Okay. This, in spite of the awareness of the shocker from slot 1 and slot 2, I don't think slot 3 people would have got an advantage, because the question was really complex in terms of length of the data, in terms of the different types of, for example, I'll give you a very simple example. In my slot, there was one question which had two types of ACs, window AC and split AC, and each one of them had two types: inverter AC and non-inverter AC. I mean, that itself was very difficult to fathom, because there were window AC, there was split AC. In window, there were two types. In split, there were two types. One information was about total number of window, one information about total number of inverter ACs. And then merging them two together, and then there were four dealers. It was really, the patience to read it, make the diagram, keep an eye on the countdown clock would have been messy, and it would have been slightly heartbreaking as well. So yeah, so basically my guess is, in this section, uh, Janif, I'm absolutely in sync with you. I think you are putting it the right manner. So good attempts, two sets, partially to fully, with fair amount of accuracy rate, should give you easily 95 percentile across these slots in this section. Okay. And therefore, if you have been able to do 1.5 slot to 2 slots well, you can easily expect 90 percentile plus. If you have been able to do 4 questions from 2 sets, you should be able to do 95 percentile. uh, One thing that I want to talk about, VARC plus LRDI section, and I'll come back to that even in the advice stage, is uh, irrespective of your logical reasoning prowess or your RC prowess or your knowledge about verbal ability, uh, reading skills, reading with comprehension, reading long passages, reading long data, and trying to retain them as a skill became very very important this year. uh, this is something which we have always been stressing, that don't do RC, build a reading skill. Okay, read for your life, don't read for cat. That is what we have always said. And I think this year's cat has actually, uh, I would say, proved it. Okay, so my suggestion to you is very clearly, for anybody who will be preparing for ZAT as well as for CAT 24 or something like that, from One Click also as well as Campus Sutra also, we have always suggested that build a good reading skill for yourself to become a better human being, uh, to learn new things, to get exposed to various facets of life. And I'm not necessarily saying buying books, I'm saying do e-reading, read EPUBs, but read good books, read renowned authors. uh, this has become very very important across all facets of life, including entrance exams. For example, even in GMAT, the new GMAT focus this year, reading skills seem to be something which is vital to score well in these papers. So don't take a chance. Even for ZAT, because there are two sections, one is verbal and one is decision making, and I'll come back to that by the end of this slide. Yeah, reading, Even if you have not started now, please read. Okay. Tushar, we cannot give the answers for the paper, because if you have read the instructions, it is illegal to discuss question paper till the time it is not made public by cat. Cat will come out with your correct answer keys and etc. Last year they did it within 7 days, so just wait it out. My guess is within the next 7 days it will be made public. We don't have the question papers. Nobody has. If anybody is claiming that they have the question paper and therefore they will give the answer keys, uh, they are doing something illegal. Under IT Act, this is punishable. So my suggestion to you, Tushar, is refrain from doing that. Don't even ask in the forums and etc. This is by you have signed on the agreement saying that I go abide by the law and we will not discuss the question paper. So that's how it is. So just sharing with you. Yeah. Uh, anyway, Tushar, do you actually remember the questions? So how will you compare the answer keys if you don't remember the question? That will be you'll have to wait for the question paper to come out, right? Yeah. Uh, Quant, coming to quant, 22 questions that came in quant. The interesting part of the story is this year, uh, unlike for the last few years where there was very clearly a bias for, let's say, geometry or bias for algebra, this year they had almost everything. I had from arithmetic, I had from algebra, I had from functions, I had question from time and work, time and distance, profit and loss, quadratic equations, linear equations, geometry, everything, logarithm, AP, GP. So logarithm and AP was mixed in my one of my papers. Yeah, and another important thing was uh, there were at least 5 questions uh, which asked for not the exact answer. They said what can be if this happens, then what can not be the possible value. For example, one question that I got asked as a time and work question was that if a group of people finish a work in less than 12 days, another group of people finish the work in less than 18 days, then uh, what cannot be the total number of days in which A finishes the work or something like that. So lot of questions. They said A into B, what can be the minimum possible value or maximum possible value? Or 8 to the power m, 8 to the power n, there are 41 values. So what can be the uh, difference of m minus n for the least possible values? Oh, uh, so one thing that I understood in this year's quant was that anybody who goes by the formula centric approach, or anybody who went with a process centric approach and did not concentrate on concepts and application of concepts, they will suffer a lot. Anybody who has focused on concepts and learned to apply concepts, okay, did not see it as a formula, understood uh, that when there is a formula or when there is a theory, how do I utilize the theory to get something, those students would have fared well in the paper. Those who went with a set of formula rote learning, they might not have done very well in yesterday's paper. That's the background. Algebra questions were, at least in my slot, that is slot 3, the 2 3 algebra questions that came was very time consuming. For example, I got one question, x to the power 8 plus 1 by x to the power 8 is equal to 47, and then they asked what is x to the power 9 plus 1 by x to the power 9. Now this is a typical quintessential CBSE type of question, which if I would have started doing my guesses, it would have required at least 2.5 to 3 minutes, and the options were not helpful either, so I could not have backtracked also because the options had a lot of root 5s. So uh, uh, my guess is that uh, quant was all about choosing your set well. Okay, if you could have chosen the right questions well, then you could have easily done 10 to 12 questions. But if you have fallen for a wrong question and when process based, and then got into their tangle, then it would have been difficult for you. Okay, for example, one of my profit and loss question had that, a person buys a cloth at certain rate. If he buys for 1 meter or 100 meter, then he gets something extra. Then when he sells it, he cheats and also gives a discount, and then what is the profit? Okay, so multiple things. There was a uh, chain of successive increase, decrease, decrease, increase, and so on. So easy but lengthy, looked complex, but if you were calm and composed and you'd have chosen your questions well, then my guess is you would have done easily 10 to 12 questions with good accuracy. Yeah, that's the whole idea. So uh, difficulty level was definitely one notch higher than last year. Last year it was quite easy, but yeah, one notch higher than last year. And as I said, a very clear cut deviation from process based, formula based questions. So anybody who would have gone with the application mode, and anybody who was in slot 3 and was already aware that it is not going to come formula based, so you'll have to research, you'll have to write down 2 3 possibilities, do a little bit of trial and error, and then it will hit you. uh, they would have done well. Slot 1, my guess is people would have been in a little bit of shock. Okay, so that's the only worry that I have. But yeah, again, on a general basis, 10 to 12 questions with good accuracy uh, would have been possible in quant. Okay, so that's my understanding of the paper. uh, so coming to overall, with whatever feedback we have got, uh, it seems that and uh, the numbers that I have written basically are number of questions attempted, not score. The overall is the score part that I'm talking about. uh, VARC, as I said, uh, with whatever feedback I have got, since people had already been aware about the type of structure of the paper, and by the time they reached to slot 2 or slot 3, they had a fair idea about the paper. VARC cutoffs, my guess is in slot 2 and slot 3 will be slightly one notch higher than slot 1. So I suggested that 12 to 15 questions done correctly in slot 1 should be good score. For slot 2 and slot 3, uh, it will be 14 to 16 question in VA and RC. LRDI, I think, looking at the complexity and throughout the section, the difficulty and the length, my guess is it will more or less remain same. Uh, Slightly unverified, but with whatever general feedback I have got from people, slot 2 seems to be slightly higher in difficulty level over slot 1 and slot 3. For example, slot 2 people are like swearing, saying that बस 10 क्वेश्चन तो मेरे पल्ले ही नहीं पड़े, मुझे कुछ समझ ही नहीं आया. Right, एकदम दिमाग झंझना गया. That was the type of comment that I got from slot 2. Slot 1 people and slot 3 people seems to be slightly more relaxed in terms of quant. uh, Maybe slot 2, uh, they would have reached the exam center before they got the feedback, so maybe it is an aftershock or something like that. But yeah, uh, it looks like that with whatever general feedback we have got, in slot 2 the quants is to be slightly higher in terms of difficulty level than slot 1 and slot 3. Overall, uh, in slot 1, and this is purely based on the assumption that people have, when they reached slot 3 they were slightly wiser and more aware than people in slot 1. That's the only uh, feedback that I have received from general people. It looks like that in slot 1, if you get 80 to 85, that should be 90 percentile, 95 percentile, 83 to 87. It is 87, sorry, my mistake. Please don't read it as 97, 83 to 87. Uh, one mistake in the slide. Okay, so just as a correction, I just noted. So this is 87. Don't get a fright. Okay. 83 to 87. Similarly, in slot 3, 85 to 88 seems to be giving you a good score. So overall, if you look at it, my guess is with all the three sections combined, uh, if you are able to do, my guess is about I will say um 24 to I will say 30. Okay, 30 questions overall. If you are able to do with fair amount of accuracy rate, 30 to 32, uh, combining all the three sections, and bulk of it is going to come from VRC section. Okay, so if I am saying 33, my guess is many people would have done 18 to 19 attempts in VRC. I gave the number slightly on the conservative side. Uh, so that's the whole idea. Quant, I am suggesting that approximately 9 to 10 questions, 10 9 to 10 questions in slot 2, and the other two slots around 10 to 12 questions. That's uh, if attempted, and that is a basic assumption that the accuracy rate you have maintained it at approximately 80%. That should be a good attempt to score 95 percentile plus. Okay, so if you have verified your answers and etc, uh, I have just increased the 95 percentile definition and overall score slightly by 1 2 marks every slot, because very clearly the feedback that I've got from slot 3 is, okay, the paper was difficult, I also could not do it to my capacity, I could not match to my scores that I was doing in the mock cats and etc. But having said that, I knew quant was difficult, so it did not surprise me. Or I knew that LRDI was difficult, so it did not surprise me. So every student that I have talked to, in fact, same for me, uh, I knew for sure that LRDI has come difficult. So when LRDI actually came difficult, it was not that I was demotivated or I was in for a shock. Okay, same feedback I got when I walked out of the center, and I talked to people, and I talked to my students, whoever was I had taught, and whoever were taken in our test series and etc, and everybody said that, okay, yes, my quant was not good, my LRDA was not good, I could do only 7 questions, I could do only 8 questions and etc. But having said that, sir, uh, पता ही था, राइट, पता ही था, दोस्तों से पूछा था, उन्होंने ही बोल दिया था कि नहीं होगा. So that's the general feedback that I have got. So therefore my guess is that since the initial shock factor is not there, uh, my initial guess is, at least in VRC, since people already knew that they could score more in VRC because LRD and quant was not supporting them, people will score slightly more in VRC in slot 2 and slot 3. They will do a tad bit more in quant in slot 2 and slot 3. Slot 1, I mean, I'm talking about the relative part. Slot 1, very clearly, people who did not recover from the shock, they would have done less than 8 questions. People who recovered from the shock, with whatever questions and feedbacks that we have got, people would have done 10 questions minimum. That's how the background is coming to be. So 95 percentile, my guess is in slot 1, 80 to 85 marks, slot 2, 83 to 87 marks, and slot 3, 85 to 88 marks. That would have normalized itself to 95 percentile, sorry, 99. So overall score, this is 99 percentile. Sorry, my mistake. And this number of attempts would have given you 95 percentile sectionally. Okay, that's call it a prediction, call it a forecasting, is something which you are doing. So 80 to 85 would have given you 99 percentile, 83 to 87 would have given you 99 percentile, 85 to 88 would have given you 99 percentile in slot 1, 2, and 3 respectively as score, which if you want me to translate it into number of attempts here, that would have constituted so around 30 to 32 attempts. Okay, Here it would have constituted to around 35 attempts, and here it would have constituted to around 36 attempts. Okay, and I repeat, majority out of these 36, in fact my guess is as much as 50% of it would have come from VRC. Okay, so my guess is if somebody has attempted 36 questions in this slot 3, my guess is the extra 2 3 questions that I am talking about from slot 1 and slot 2, that would have come from VRC, not from quant or not from uh, LRDI. That's the prediction that I'm making. So I will say that somebody in slot 3 might have done even 18 to 20 questions. It is possible. Okay, it is possible. Some very well prepared students with very good English might have actually done 18 to 20 questions correctly in slot 3, because as I said, the shock effect very clearly was gone by that time. So when it comes to normalization, uh, there is a chance that you would have done 2 3 questions more in VRC. uh, Similarly, you could have done even one question more in quant. That's my guess about it. Yep. So that's what I am predicting. For cat, 23 takers. Just two suggestions quickly. Quickly move on, good or bad, because now it is gone, and it is not in your hand anymore. So quickly move on. In fact, please understand, Snap and Nmat can lead you to an equally good B school, barring maybe the top 6 to 7 IIMs, Blackie, and all that stuff. Rest of the IIMs, whether it is Amritsar or Tiruchirappalli or Udaipur or Kashipur and etc. All these schools are almost at par with maybe an Narsimunji Mumbai or even SIBM Pune. Uh, there is no comparison with XLRI Jamshedpur. So they're equally good, and some of them can be actually better. So therefore, these exams are equally important. Quickly move on to that. Don't get unduly worried about your cat score. Ultimately, next 6 7 days cat will come out with the answer keys, but my suggestion is don't waste time on that. Secure your rest of the exams. That is a very important exam coming up, and you have got ample amount of time. You have got more than a month. So that is something which you should definitely prepare well. In fact, I was talking to Nirmalya from Campus Sutra, and he was suggesting that we will do a session on that strategy in the coming days, as well as uh, one session on decision making, which is unique to that. But yeah, my guess is that quickly move on. As I said, if it was only your paper which has gone bad, then it would have been bad news. But it looks like everybody had a bad paper. So you are on the good side actually. So my guess is don't get unduly worried. It looks like most of the time you will have a good score. You will be pleasantly surprised. That is my guess. One important thing which I have always insisted to CAT 23 takers, especially, is please start preparing for the GWPI part. That is the post CAT scenario, because please remember that the results will come out in January, and most of the institutes, Symbiosis, IFT, CAT, they don't give more than 20 25 days of time before you actually have the interviews and etc. Some of these institutes are, last year IIM Calcutta gave only 7 days before their interview started from the CAT result. So don't wait for your calls. These GWPI preparations are very important. They are equally tough, if not more than CAT. You will have to read current affairs. You'll have to read about opinion building. You'll have to have good writing skills. You'll have to do analysis and argument and etc. So therefore, please don't wait for it. Slowly but steadily start your GWPI preparations. Talk to us, talk to campussutra.com, visit one click, and we will be providing you a lot of resources and material which you can start with your GWP preparations. But don't do the mistake of waiting for your IIM call to start your GDPI preparation, because there is not enough time. Okay, for a moment, even if the worst happens and you don't get a call, trust me, preparation always makes a better human being out of you. Okay, in terms of your communication skills, in terms of your personality development, in terms of your goal clarity, that always helps. In fact, you can visit some of the achiever students that I talk about, and there was one student who has insisted that I cleared CAT in my fourth attempt, and in the last three attempts that I did, I actually prepared GDPI every time, okay, without waiting for the result. So GWPI preparation is something which you should start right from 1st of December, parallelly. Okay, it will be good for yourself, and that's how it should work. For CAT 24 takers, uh, uh, yeah, I'll talk about normalization, Nirmali. For CAT 24 takers, quickly, and if somebody is attending it, reading skills is very, very vital, like never before. So build a good reading skill. Don't go the rote learning way. We have always insisted it was never enough for an exam like CAT. You should not go that way. Please come out of that. Thinking of CAT as an exam like graduation. It is an exam, as I love to say it in my classes, that it is an A rated exam. It is an adult exam. It checks your thinking process. It checks your ability to analyze, think, create patterns, go into decision making. So stop looking at it that there is a fixed pattern to CAT. Prepare well, build yourself, learn concepts, learn to apply, and you should be doing good in CAT. And if you are not one of these studious type of students and preparing for CAT 24, then my suggestion will be an year long preparation, because if your past academic record shows that you are not one of the brightest students in the class, or you require some amount of time to build on to the concepts and application, then definitely we suggest a year long preparation. So far as the normalization of the paper is concerned in regarding scores, though we don't know much detailing about it, but what CAT has always said is that they take into account the fact that uh, one, the difficulty level is kept uniform throughout the slots, and therefore, if it is not, uh, they tend to adjust these scores. For example, if uh, one of the slots has an above average score, or for example, let's say, let's take this year's paper as an example. Let's say in the first slot, LRDI people would have got 24 marks, but in the second slot also they would have got 22 to 24 marks on an average. But if in the third slot people actually get, let's say, 30 marks, uh, then what they do is they generally would adjust the marks, assuming that obviously that the last slot was easier than the other two slots, and therefore the score does not go to 30. They average it out in terms of and whether it is a weighted average or a simple arithmetic mean, that we don't know, but yes, they adjust these scores. Similarly, they also take into account that people generally become aware about the paper structure and the difficulty level, because there are three slots. So generally, as I said, and that is exactly what was the reasoning behind me giving slightly higher marks for cutoff for the last two slots. Generally, they will adjust the score based on that, because they are aware that people don't get the shock effect by the third slot. However, it is not a process which is very openly declared or announced by the IIMs. Number one. Number two, each of the IIMs anyway have a different selection process. So we don't exactly know how do they do the normalization. However, I can only tell you that generally it has been undisputed, and it over the last 10 years or so that they have done normalization, it seems to be very, very fair. Okay, not one single person ever has complained that I have lost out on normalization or something like that. Okay, never. So it looks like it's a very, very fair process. They take into account a lot of statistical tools, take a normal curve, take a bell curve, do a hypothesis, remove the last 2.4% as is done in a normal curve, and so on and so forth. So therefore, we can keep faith and trust into the normalization process, and that is precisely where I gave you the suggested marks in the paper. Yep. That is all from my side. Basically, the last words that I want to leave here is that I think you have done fairly well. It might look that you have not done well yesterday, but that is not really true. uh, it looks like that everybody has done below the absolute attempts that they have done in their mock cuts and etc. And as I said, when everybody does bad, then it is actually a good news. So my guess is, whatever you are aiming for, that has not shifted. That benchmark has not shifted. In terms of percentile, you are going to get more or less whatever you are averaging out in your mock ads, and whatever you are expecting. So don't fret over it. It was a shocker. Kal tak shock tha, midnight tak. I hope you celebrated today morning, saying that today is a new morning and new day, so let's celebrate. And you should be through with it. I think that's what is good thing about it. Yeah, Nirmal.
Thanks, Tan, Dhruv sir. It was really, really wonderful. A couple of pointers which you mentioned was also, I'm sure, would be helpful for ZAT takers, because now the entire focus would be, I'm sure, on ZAT. But again, I don't see that as a very bad scenario, in a sense that when the average performance is below par, or maybe bad, I can use this word. So that means essentially everybody is at more or less at the same platform, and it's a very fair play, or fair game kind of situation. And on top of it, the normalization definitely would happen from IAMS, as you rightly said. It's a very probably a secretive process or something which they don't disclose. But I have talked to CAT exams setters once upon a time, from IIMs, who used to set papers, and from them whatever I have collected a little bit about the normalization process. That yes, it is the objective of that is to have a very fair kind of a scenario where nobody misses out, and as you also pointed out, that nobody complained. So overall, I don't see it is a bad scene. Yes, the frustration yesterday would be probably existing. But again, as you rightly said, we should move on. We should look forward to Z. We should look forward to GDPI. And definitely, we are also coming up with one or two sessions on SAT, because a lot of requests have also come up. We'll soon declare the dates. And of course, followed by that, we would have GDPI sessions where we would take you all through the do's and don'ts of GDPI. And of course, I guess a PI session would can be also done. So in case you have any queries in the meantime, do let us know. We are there to assist you, to help you out in this process. And what anything specific, you can request us. But yes, from the learning of yesterday, as you said, good reading habits is something which needs to be again developed. Why I say again is that I know, for me, I used to be an avid reader, but due to the technology, due to our screen time, and due to a lot of things, the focus on reading a book, taking a book, or reading a book is now fading. And that's a common thing which I see, except of course there are exceptions. But pick up good books. Maybe we can come up with a list of good books to read before the ZAT exam, and that might be helpful to that.
Actually, just to add, Nirmal, I mean, GMAT this year, from October this year, have started something called GMAT Focus, which now have changed the structure, and they also have insisted on good reading habits as a part of the preparation. So internationally, it seems to be accepted that good reading habits is a prerequisite for a good manager. So something as I have always said, even in the previous sessions, that don't do reading for reading comprehension of cat. Build reading as a life skill. That will always help, and also will help you in cat and zat and all the business school entrance exams.
We just like to add on to it. Reading helps not just in being a better manager or a effective manager. It helps in overall your life. You know, your personal life, your professional life overall. When you travel, reading helps. When you are talking to somebody unknown, a stranger, reading helps. I mean, it enhances the knowledge overall. So traveling, of course, is one of the thing which I feel always that it enhances one's outlook, one's knowledge, one's experience towards a lot of many things. And of course, the second one, of course, is reading. So that's it for now. And I would end with a note that nothing to be depressed about, nothing to be demotivated about. Let's look forward to the calls which is expected, as it is overall probably not a very good experience. And we will soon declare the dates for the ZAT sessions and also for the GDPI sessions. Thank you and good night.